We all do it. We set a New Year's resolution, exercise more, lose weight, sell 25% more than last year. We all have something we want to achieve. But how long before we fail and then feel defeated? One of my rules for success is to forget about setting goals. Focus instead on your system. What is a system? It's a collection of daily habits that you follow. I like the symbolism of an iceberg. Your goals and desired outcomes are what you see just above the surface of the water. But it's your system, your collection of daily habits, which allows those goals to even be achieved. That's the mass of the iceberg below the surface, allowing it to float. And if there is ever a gap between your goal and your system, if there's ever a gap between your desired outcome and your daily habits will always win. The system will always win, right? You will almost always be carried inevitably to the results that your habits are driving you toward. What is your goal? What is your system? I mean, if you're a basketball coach, your goal might be to win the championship, but your system is how you recruit, the way you train and practice each day, on the court, the way that you review film, that's part of your system. If you're an entrepreneur, your goal might be to build a multi-million-dollar business. Your system is how you recruit and train people who come in, your onboarding sequence, the way that you test product ideas and get them in front of customers, your marketing campaigns, that's the system for running the business. I always think it's interesting if you ask yourself, hey, if I didn't focus on the goal at all and only focused on the system, would I still get good results? Like if you were the basketball coach and you said, listen, we're not going to talk about the championship at all. We're not going to look at the scoreboard throughout the game. We're just going to focus on performing this system of how we train, how we execute at practice, the way we review film, and do that to the best of our ability. You would probably still win some games. You probably would do pretty well. Similar thing for the entrepreneur. If it's just about having the best-selling product in a category or launching a best-selling book or achieving a certain amount of revenue, then maybe you're focused a little too much on the wrong thing. But if it's about mastering the system, getting the right people on board, launching the best PR campaign or marketing campaign you can, developing the most compelling product possible, now you're in a good position to get the results that you want. By emphasizing the system and de-emphasizing the goal, I think you put yourself in a better position to, ironically, ultimately achieve the goal. A good example of this is Bill Walsh, Super Bowl winning coach. I think he won 3 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. And he had this concept where he said the score takes care of itself. And everything that they did at the organization was organized around creating a championship team, but they didn't talk about the score. They didn't worry about the scoreboard. All they did was focus on the system that they were building each day, the way they were training, the way they were practicing, the way they were recruiting. And if they do that well, then they're in a position to win a lot of Super Bowls. So if you're trying to translate your goal into a sustainable system, you need to do a couple things. First thing you need to do is identify the goal that you're trying to achieve. So you got to figure out, what am I optimizing for? Second thing is we want to break that goal into smaller habits. So what are the daily actions, if I do them consistently, that are going to lead me toward that ultimate outcome? And then the third and final thing is you take those daily habits and you focus on repeating them over a broad span of time. And it's actually this act of repetition, this act of consistency, that's going to lead you toward that ultimate outcome that you want. So it's all about translating this big picture vision that you have into a small daily habit that you can perform consistently. So if your goal is to learn the piano, maybe you start by learning a tune with your right hand first, and then you play maybe an accompanying chord with your left hand, and then eventually you put the two hands together. And so it's this gradual progression of the system of learning how to play the piano. Maybe your goal is to read 30 books a year, but your system is, I read 1 page before bed each night, and then maybe after you've done that for a month, then you start to scale up and do 2 pages, and then after 6 months, you're doing 5 pages, and so on. And the idea is ultimately you're building this reading habit where now each night you're getting in bed and you read for 15 minutes a night. Maybe your goal is to get in shape, but your system is the way that you arrange your workout clothes the night before and get your water bottle filled up, and the tracking that you use to track your habits, whether it's an app or notebook, and the reward that you set for yourself, like you get to eat your favorite meal when you finish a full week of workouts. And so it's by scaling these big goals down and turning them into something sustainable and that you can chunk and start to layer on top of each other day in and day out that you ultimately are led to the big picture goal that you want to achieve. In many ways, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And this is so obvious in so many areas of life. You start to look around and you realize, presumably every athlete at the Olympic Games has the goal of winning the gold medal. The goal is not the thing that determines the outcome. It's how well they sleep the night before, their coaching and strategy for the event, genetic ability, there are all kinds of factors. Or if you have a job opening at a company, presumably every candidate that applies for the job, let's say it's 100 people, all 100 of them have the same goal. The goal is not the thing that determines the outcome. It's levels of education, experience, presentation skills in the interview, networking, and who they know at the company. Goals might be necessary for success. They might be a part of the process, but they're not sufficient for success on their own. And in fact, what we really want is to emphasize and spend most of our time on building a better system, not trying to think of a better goal. And so it's actually this package of behaviors, this collection of habits, the system that you're running, that determines the result that you get to. You know, I'm setting this up kind of like a dichotomy, right? We have goals and we have systems, but of course you have both, and it's up to you to decide, what are you optimizing for? What are your goals? But my encouragement, my suggestion, is to spend the vast majority of your time focused on building a better system. How do you optimize the gears of this machine that you're running? You know, each habit is like a little gear in the overall machine. And when you put them all together, boy, you can have this engine really humming along. But if you're focused so much on the outcome and the goal and not enough on the system, then it's just a dream and you don't have a good path for getting there. Let's say you want to lose 20 pounds in 3 months. You may achieve the goal with a lot of sweat, exercise, and willpower, but once you reach the goal, you might not be able to maintain the weight loss. Without a substantial system, you may gain it back. Goals have an end point. You achieve the goal or you don't. Systems last forever. So think a little bit less about the results and a little bit more about the habits that will get you there. Don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect. You know, like, it's not going to work that way. It doesn't work that way for anybody. And something that I've noticed, the more that I've studied top performers in various industries, all these people, the people that get exceptional results, they're human. They fall off course just like everybody else. The thing that they tend to be pretty good at is getting back on track quickly. And what you find is that if the reclaiming of a habit is fast, the breaking of it doesn't matter that much, because you get to the end of the year and it's just a little blip on the radar. And this mantra that I like to keep in mind, this philosophy that I like to keep top of mind when I'm building habits, is never miss twice. So, you know, maybe you've been following this new diet for 7 or 8 or 9 days, and then on the 10th day, you binge eat a pizza. Well, you know, I wish that hadn't happened, but never miss twice, so let's make sure the next meal is a healthy one. Or in my case, the habit that kind of launched my career was I wrote a new article every Monday and Thursday, and I did that for 3 years. Well, you know, if I missed on Monday, I wish that hadn't happened, but let me pour all my energy to getting back on track and getting an article out on Thursday. And again, if you reclaim the habit quickly, the breaking of it doesn't matter that much. I think this is really about emphasizing this idea that it's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. And if you can get back on track quickly, then you solve the problem at the source, which is you don't want slipping up to become a new habit. You know, I think most of us have felt this just from going through life, which is it's almost never the first mistake that ruins you. You know, it's like the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. It's letting slipping up become a new habit. That's the real problem. And so if you can avoid that and get back on track quickly, if you can never miss twice, then you kind of solve that problem and you can just get back on track. To change your habits, change your system. Goals are results. Systems are about process. Start with systems when you want to change your goals. Goals are short-term. Systems are long-term. All right, so here's a quick assignment for you. Just a couple questions to think about. The first is, can my current habits carry me to my desired future? So as you're thinking about the system that you're trying to build, take assessment of your current habits and are you on the right path? Is this a trajectory that's going to carry you forward? And then once you start to think about that a little more carefully, what would it look like to build a good system for the goals that you have? If you're going to deconstruct that goal, what are the fundamental pieces of the system that you're running that would carry you toward that? So what are the little gears in this overall machine? And take a little bit of time to think about that, to deconstruct the systems that you need to build to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Coming up, want to build a new habit that sticks? It may be all about creating a new identity.